Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name is Erin, and today we are doing episode 2 in our Prismacolor tutorial, how to learn how to use Prismacolor series. So today's episode is going to focus on how paper and pressure affect the way your work with your Prismacolors turns out. This is going to be more of an interesting tutorial where you guys can kind of get into it and follow along. Keep in mind that you don't have to do any of this, but if you'd like to follow along, I do have some things put together for you so that you can do that. Different types of paper and the amount of pressure that you put on your pencils on those specific types of paper are going to have a tremendous effect on the way your pieces turn out. And I do apologize for the glare. I'm going to move this out of the way. So it's going to have a really big impact on the way things look when you're finished. So what we're going to do today and for the rest of the series is we'll be working with this, which is the 72 set. I'll be choosing colors that come out of this set so that you guys can follow along if you choose to. The things that you're going to need, if you don't have them already, are going to be at least 2 different types of paper. So if you have a piece of cardstock and a piece of computer paper, or if you have a piece of notebook paper and the color sampling sheet in the back of your coloring book, any of those things are going to work. Just 2 different pieces of paper, and this will kind of let you better understand how the paper is going to affect your pencils. I do want to let you guys know that I am not in my room alone today. I do have my dogs, my boyfriend's here, so he's going to learn about Prismacolors today, whether he wants to or not. But there may be some noise happening in the background, like right now my dog's slurping the water bowl. Another thing, we had some recording problems when I recorded my Sunday Fun Day color and chat. I don't know what my camera did, but it lost a bunch of the footage for whatever reason, even though it showed it was recording. So I'm going to hope I don't have to do this twice, because I can't color these things twice. I only made 1 copy of the little worksheets. So, sorry guys, I'm enjoying my pumpkin spice flavored coffee. It's so good. So what you're going to need is your 2 sheets of paper. The tutorial is going to follow this image in Secret Garden. This one right here, I call it the Lovebirds. I'm not sure what it's really called, but this is what we're going to be working on out of Secret Garden with our Prismacolors through this tutorial. And then of course you're going to need Prismacolor colored pencils. For this one you're going to need a chartreuse color, and that's going to be for the homework assignment that we're going to have before you watch the next video. And you are going to need, of course, the Secret Garden coloring book if you have it. If you don't, that's fine. You can color in any coloring book you want. It's just if you want to follow along with me, that's the one I'm going to be using. So, to get started on our paper and pressure segment, I am going to need a Prismacolor colored pencil, and I want to choose one that's going to have some nice bright color. Let's go with denim blue. That's just the one I'm going to use. And you guys can use any of them that you have or that you want. I'm rearranging a few things here on my desk. Alright, so I don't want the clipboard because it's going to be shiny. What I have here today is I have 3 different types of paper that I've put some circles and little things on. So we have standard computer paper, so this is just the really thin stuff that you would print your documents and whatnot on. So it's the really thin computer paper. Then I have a sheet of vellum Bristol cardstock. This is 67-pound vellum Bristol bright white cardstock from Nina Exact. This is one of my favorite papers for colored pencil, and it's really cheap on Amazon. So if you're looking for a good printer paper to print your PDFs out on, definitely check this one out. I think it's something like $8 for 200 sheets. It's really not expensive at all. Then I have a sheet of smooth tinted cardstock. I was actually going to separate the two, do smooth cardstock and then do a piece of tinted cardstock. But I figured we could knock both those things out with just 1 piece of paper. So this is a smooth cardstock. It doesn't have nearly the same tooth as this. So we are going to go from the standard computer paper to the vellum Bristol to the smooth tinted cardstock. That's what I'm going to do. Now as you guys follow along, all I want you to do is just like draw a doodle, or you don't even have to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to, on these different types of paper, we're going to use light pressure, medium pressure, and heavy pressure. And this is going to help show us exactly what pressure does to the color of the pencil on the paper. So I'm going to start with my computer paper, and I'm going to hold my pencil way back toward the end because this will kind of force me to not use heavy pressure. And I'm just going to color inside the circle with the tip of the pencil, just barely touching the, I'm going to zoom in, guys, so you can see better. My camera just went a little crooked, but it'll be alright. So we're going to color this circle with the lightest pressure. So as you can see, we have a very light blue. Now I'm going to move my hand farther up the pencil, about to the middle, and I'm going to color this circle with a medium pressure. And this isn't about, you know, making a masterpiece, guys. So if you get outside the lines, or if I get outside the lines, it's not going to be the end of the world. Now when we apply medium pressure, you can see that we get a darker blue. Now if we do heavy pressure, which is pretty well as hard, I'm not going to go as hard as I can push, but if we do a heavy pressure, just not quite to the point where you'd actually be burnishing your paper, but almost. Then we get the actual color of the Prismacolor pencil core, which is this dark denim blue. So you can see how different pressures are going to drastically affect the color that you get out of your pencil. And when you're coloring, or when you're making a drawing or your colored pencil painting, the amount of pressure that you apply to your pencil, you can use that to your advantage. You can use these different variations to your advantage in your coloring. And when it comes to layering and blending, being able to apply all three of these pressures is going to come in very handy. So at this point, once you've tried your light, medium, and heavy pressure by moving your hand up the pencil, so light pressure, you're going to be back here, medium pressure, you're going to be right here, heavy pressure, you're going to hold it down toward the bottom to color. So at this point, what I want you to do, and it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but I want you to, in these boxes, we're going to practice, and you don't have to draw the boxes, that's up to you, but we're going to practice going from light to heavy. So we're going to start as light as we can and gradually make it get heavier. And then over here, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to start out heavy and then get as light as we can. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is a great way to practice. It's going to help you learn how to blend and layer much more efficiently. Again, we're not going for a masterpiece here, folks. We just want to get the idea. So now we have a nice light to heavy gradient with one colored pencil. And just by looking at this, I'm sure you can see how this is really going to come in handy when you're coloring in your coloring books. So now on this one, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to start out heavy, and I'm going to gradually reduce my pressure until I get to very light at the end. So you can do it both ways. Someone in group earlier today, I believe it was, her name was Kara, asked me about the best way to practice with Prismacolors. I'm going to take a drink of coffee. And honestly, guys, this is one of the best ways that you can practice. Just take, your favorite color pencil, take multiple pencils, and practice your pressures. Practice training yourself how to use a light pressure, how to use a medium pressure, how to use a heavy pressure, and then do the light to heavy and the heavy to light. Because it's about muscle memory. So, I mean, you don't want to, when you're coloring your coloring book, have to sit and think really hard about, okay, well, now I need to lighten up. You want it to come like a second nature. And that's going to help you really get the most out of your coloring experience, because if it's work and if it feels like work, you're not going to want to do it. And it shouldn't feel like work. But this is a quick, easy, simple way to practice, and this is what I did whenever I was relatively new to coloring, and it really helped me out. So I just figured I'd share that with you guys. So this is a really good way to practice. And this was on the standard computer paper. So just go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, our next paper is the Vellum Bristol cardstock from Nina Exact, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So you guys can go ahead and do your second sheet of paper as well. So start and fill in an area with light pressure. You don't have to draw the circle. You can just, color scribble on it, whatever you want to do. So there's a light pressure on the vellum Bristol. And then we're going to do a medium pressure. And then we're going to do a heavy pressure. Now, vellum Bristol differs from your computer paper because it has a whole lot more tooth. So that means the paper has more texture. There's more little mountains and hills and valleys to grab onto that pencil pigment while you bring it across your paper. So that's why I prefer it. It helps you get deeper, richer colors. When you're using lighter pressures, you can get far more layers out of it, and that's why I prefer it. So again, we have the light, medium, and heavy on this. Now we'll do the light to heavy. Start out light, gradually start increasing the pressure as we get to the center. And then as we pass the center, we're going to put even more pressure. So there's our light to heavy, and then the opposite. Heavy to light. Now, in comparison, if you look at these two images, these two pieces of paper, you can tell that on the vellum Bristol, the denim blue Prismacolor pencil is much darker and much richer. And that's because the vellum Bristol has a whole lot more tooth to grab the pigment. So no matter how hard I press on the computer paper, it's never ever ever going to be as rich as the color I'm going to get when I press hard on the vellum Bristol. So that's also something to keep in mind. So if you guys have access to these types of papers and you can practice this, you can compare these. You can feel these papers and then compare them to the papers in your coloring books. And then you'll better understand what kind of techniques and things you need to use in that particular coloring book based on the paper it has. Alright, the final one we're going to do is the smoother tinted cardstock. Now this is going to be more reminiscent of the paper that you're going to find in Secret Garden, like in Johanna Basford's books. It's probably not quite as heavy as that paper, but it's about the same texture. It has only a small amount of tooth and it's relatively smooth. So we're going to do this one, and I may need to sharpen before I'm finished. We'll see. So we're going to do a light pressure. And we're going to do a medium pressure. Got a little bit too heavy on that end. I have a tendency, like many of you all, to be heavy-handed when I color. And I think that just comes from, you know, when we were kids and we used colored pencils and crayons, there's so much wax in like the Crayola products and the Rose Art products and the things that we had access to when we were kids, that we were used to pushing really hard. Like we got trained to push really hard to get dark, deep colors. And I think that's why so many of us are still heavy-handed today, because it's just like ingrained into our brains that if we want color, we're going to have to push. And that's not necessarily the case with the Prismacolors. Alright, so on the tinted cardstock, we have light, medium, and heavy. And then here, we're going to do light to heavy. And then over here, we're going to do heavy to light. The more you do this, the more it's just going to come naturally to you. You won't even really have to think about making your gradient. It'll just happen. So now if we compare all of these, I'll bring them all up so you can see all of the circles. The tinted paper makes it look a little darker, and the fact that it's smooth means there's less white paper showing through. So because there's less tooth when I color over the smooth cardstock, it lays down more of the wax onto the paper, and it doesn't have, let me see if I can bring this up to the camera. If you can see those little white spaces in there, that's the tooth of the paper that's left behind. So let's say that you were going to go in and add more layers, you want to have more white space. So as you can see, the lighter you go, the more white space you have and the more room you have for more layers. With the smooth cardstock, well, actually with the vellum Bristol, you're going to have even more white space left, even after your heavy and medium layers. And that's going to give you even more room for layering. And that's why vellum Bristol is going to be better for layering than your standard computer paper, because you have more of that white space left. Now the cardstock is even more different. You can get more color down on it because it is a heavier paper and it can take more color. But when you're finished, you're not going to have nearly as much white space left over because there are fewer hills and valleys for that paper to grab, or for the pigment to grab onto with your pencil. So with an understanding of how your colored pencils are going to react on all these different papers with all these different pressures, it's going to make it easier for you to choose what kind of techniques you want to use in your coloring books, just like I said earlier. So you can start to understand what kind of effect you're going to get if you use light pressure, what kind of effect you're going to get if you use medium pressure, what kind of effect you're going to get if you use a heavy pressure, and what kind of effect you're going to get if you do a gradient from light to heavy and heavy to light. I'm going to keep these because I'm going to use them again with my next video when we do our blending and layering techniques. That'll be either later this week or early next week. I haven't decided yet, but we're going to use these for that. So, I hope that's helpful for you guys. I really do. So, we're going to be doing, throughout this tutorial series, we are going to be doing, and this is a brand new book. I've never colored in it, so the spine's probably going to need to be broken in a little bit. We're going to be doing the lovebirds, like I said at the beginning of the video. I'm reading my notes to make sure I'm not skipping over anything. So what we're going to do at this point is very, very simple. The Prismacolor Premier set of 72 comes with several greens. And we are going to start by using light pressure, and light pressure only. We're going to practice being light-handed, which is something even I need to work on, so it's good practice for me as well. Sorry about the noise. We are going to practice coloring all of these leaves, all the leaves that have the little lines going through them. So this one, these right here, and the one down at the bottom, and then you've got a few around the edges. So all the little leaves that have the lines going through them, that's what we're going to color with the chartreuse. You can do, like if you want to, you can come down and do these two, and then these down here. I'm going to do that. Again, guys, it is your coloring book, so you can do whatever you want to do, but this is how I'm going to color it, and that's how I'm going to use it through the tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and color a couple of these with you guys. Go ahead and leave the outlines around it. Don't color those just yet, because we'll get into that with our blending and layering tutorial when we do that later in the week. So what you're going to want to do is use a very light pressure and color all of the leaves that have the lines going through them. We're going to ignore the lines and pretend that they don't exist. Because I know a lot of people, like, they want to use those lines in their coloring, and they want to like add different colors in the different spaces, and that's absolutely fine. It's your coloring book, like I'm always going to say, and like Dee Dee says, you are the boss of your coloring book. So you can do whatever you want to do, and that's just fine with me. However, you don't have to follow those guidelines. And that's what the line art is that the artist gives you. It is guidelines. It's not anything set in stone that you absolutely 100% have to do. It's just guidelines. So guys, when we're doing this here, we're going to use light pressure, and as you can see, I'm holding my pencil way back at the back. We're not looking necessarily even for an even coat here. That's not necessary. You don't have to get it. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you go over into the outline area a little bit, don't stress that either. You can go in with an eraser and take it out. See if I can zoom in just a little bit more. You see what I mean? I'm kind of getting, like over here, I got it into the outline a little bit, and that's fine. Like I said, I can go fix that. So I'm using chartreuse. Again, that's color Prismacolor PC89, or 989. So guys, your homework for this week is going to be to keep practicing with the light, medium, and heavy pressures in your coloring. You can do it on a coloring book if you want to, or you can just get a piece of paper out. Even computer paper will work. The end result doesn't make any difference. What happens as you're doing this doesn't matter. What matters is that you're training your hand to use these different pressures as you're coloring. So you're not going to be graded. It's just practice for your own personal gain. And then the rest of your homework is going to be to continue to color the leaves in this picture. And don't do it perfectly. Don't worry about being perfect. So we're going to do this one, 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 and this one. And it, like I said, if you want to, you can go around and do all the small ones too, like all the little bitty ones. That's up to you. You can either do it in the chartreuse or you can do it in another color that we're going to use later on in the tutorial. But if you want to follow along with me, I will be coloring all of the little ones in with the chartreuse pencil. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. If you are going to be following along with the tutorial for the week, be sure to come on over to the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Simple Art for Adults. I will put the link. The link is always going to be in the description box. So feel free to join the group and come and share with us once you've got your homework all done. If you want to show us if you've mastered the art of light pressure, we'd be more than happy to see it. And it's always a lot of fun when we like all as a group grow together. And this is good practice for me too, so I'll definitely be sharing mine with you guys when I get it all finished. If you would like to subscribe to my channel so you can participate in the rest of the Prismacolor for Beginners series, go ahead and do that and then hit the little bell once you've subscribed so you'll get notifications when the new videos come up. The best thing you can do, and the thing I will appreciate the most, is if you hit that little thumbs up button down there, because that's going to help put this video in front of more people who might need to see it. I hope I see you in the Facebook group, and I can't wait to see your work. Thank you so much for joining me today, Coloring Family. Bye-bye.